All right, everyone. I'm joined this month by Kelley Shirazi. She's our Senior Program Manager, Commercial Sales Enablement, and she's also our team member spotlight for this month. And Kelley and I are teammates, so this is extra fun. And so, Kelley, you were nominated actually via discretionary bonus by Madeline. And your nomination, just said that you're a collaborative teammate with a strong will to make herself better and therefore motivating others to always be better themselves. She brings great ideas to the table, along with excitement to hear others' great ideas. I believe Kelley is an asset to the commercial org and to the company. And Madeline said, if I could nominate Kelley 6 times for every value, I would. So grateful to have her here. So thank you, Kelley, for everything you do. An awesome nomination. I'm really excited for the team to get to know you a little bit better today.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's such an honor. Like, I know that sounds maybe a little bit silly, but only being 4 months in as of the 11th, I mean, it just felt amazing to be recognized. And I think it's especially meaningful to me to be recognized for diversity, belonging, and inclusion, because that's something that's just such a core value and so near and dear to my heart. It just felt like the icing on the cake.
That's awesome, and so great to have you here. And as Madeline said, I as well as many people can attest to just what an asset you are to the team. So
Oh, thanks.
really well deserved.
Thank you.
And so for people who might not work with you directly or know you as well, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you live? You said you've been at GitLab for 4 months, so just to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah. So I'm in Portland, Oregon, home of a sepia-colored hellscape right now, but that's okay. Once the wildfires clear, it should be all right. Yep, been with GitLab about 4 months, came from Puppet, spent the majority of my career in sales, both as an individual contributor and in sales leadership. And then I did a transition. So this is a little bit of a transition in my career from being in sales into sales enablement.
Okay. Awesome. And so what, you're in commercial sales enablement. So, tell the team a little bit more about what that exactly means, what exactly you do.
Yeah. So working with the commercial sales team, I'm creating programs and most notably right now I'm working on a certification program that aligns with the field certification program, but it's really tailored towards commercial teams' needs. So that's kind of the fundamental piece that I'm working on, and it consists of about 8 courses right now. I just released my first one last month, a reinforcement activity coming up, and I'm getting ready to release my next one. And then in addition to that, I'm offering supplemental trainings around things like selling services, around forecasting, be working closely with the partner team as well. So really just supporting commercials' distinct needs because they are different.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's awesome. That's perfect. And you touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to read, the folks who are listening. I wanted to read your nomination kind of in full. And so you were specifically recognized for the values of collaboration, which we mentioned, but also, as you mentioned, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And so your nomination said, since day one, Kelley has been committed to creating a safe environment, both publicly and privately, for everyone to practice transparency and learn about DI&B and how to be an ally. And Madeline said, more specifically, Kelley has helped me better understand how my experiences differ from others and how together we can all come together when demonstrating empathy. And one more specific thing that she mentioned that was eye-opening was that you taught her the difference between equity and equality, both being important, the one being an action and the other being one being an action that you can take to help others. So I would love to just, hear a little bit more, about Madeline did mention she'd nominate you 6 times for all of them, but about those 2 specifically. So DI&B and kind of how you really embody that every day, not only at GitLab, but in your life, and then the collaboration piece as well.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's always been a part of my DNA. I'm actually really interested in other people's perspectives and what other people bring to the table. One of the things that I learned when I was a sales leader is that if you really want to have a high performing team, you have to create psychological safety. And we talk about that a lot on the commercial team. And that means not only making it safe for everybody to be heard, included, but also to amplify intentionally those voices that have been excluded in the past. And sometimes that means taking a back seat to any narratives that you might create or power positions, and allowing folks who haven't had the same opportunity to step into those roles and to have their voices be heard and considered.
Mhm.
And so, it's really part of my DNA. I've always been an activist on the side. I still participate heavily in equity events.
Mhm.
Um, and what I really like about GitLab in particular is I think there's a lot of companies who will use this as sort of a tagline or a messaging piece to make
Sure.
them more attractive to others. But I feel like there's a sincerity to GitLab. And I think that they don't see this as a nice to have. I think they see it
Mhm.
as a strategic objective because they know that by having everybody able to contribute, we're
Mhm.
going to get better outcomes. And there's a proliferation of data and research around
Absolutely.
better outcomes through inclusion. So for me, it just feels like a natural fit. And it's the way I would want to be treated. I have been
Mhm.
excluded. I've been one of those voices that's been shut down. So
Mhm.
I think that drives a little bit of extra passion for me as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious because it piqued my interest when I read Madeline's nomination of, you really teaching her the difference between equity and equality. So I think people might read that and
Yeah.
wonder, like myself, like what is the difference? So can you kind of spread your wisdom a little bit wider and just shed some light on that
Yeah.
for us?
Yeah, it's really best represented through a picture, which I don't have here, but I can paint that picture verbally for you.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine two people are at a baseball game and they're standing behind a chain link fence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a taller person and a shorter person. Well, they both can see through the fence, but they don't have the same view. So we could identify that as equality. They both have equal access, if you will, to seeing the baseball diamond, but they don't have the same view.
Mm-hmm.
Equity is you give the person who can't see over the fence in the same way that the taller person can, you give them something to stand on so that they can now see over the fence and actually have true access to the total picture and the same
Mm-hmm.
view, right?
Wow.
So that's I feel like that's been the most powerful explanation.
Absolutely.
So yeah, does that help explain it?
It
I
does.
hope.
No, it absolutely does. And I think, that's I would imagine a common misconception is that they're mutually exclusive ideals and they're not, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important that people understand that. And I think it makes you stop and makes you think of, there's a lot of that right now just in the world that we're in of that makes you
Yeah.
stop and think about like, reconsider all of your preconceived notions of, what things are and what things mean, because there is so much more light shed on misconceptions like this right now. So
Well, and a good, a real life example is somebody within my family was
mhm,
talking to me about this job in particular, and I said, I really love how my voice is elevated and amplified, and how there's really a focus on diversity,
mhm.
inclusion, and belonging. And he looked at me and said, "Oh, well, is it a meritocracy?" And I looked at him and
Yeah.
I said, "It is now. It's now a meritocracy. I
Yeah,
actually can trust that I am being judged by the merit and my work product
absolutely.
instead of other factors that I have no control over." So,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
No, and GitLab's a really special place, like you mentioned, in that regard. And I think, people like you make us even better, toward those initiatives and toward those goals. So that's awesome. Thanks for enlightening me on that because I learned something today
Sure.
too. So I appreciate it. Always
Yeah.
learn something from Kelley. Um, And so one other piece I wanted to dig into as well in the values is like that collaboration piece. I know, especially you and your role, like that involves really tight collaboration between, commercial team,
Yeah.
not only Ryan, but all of the ASMs, like and the individual contributors and team members as well. So how does that come into play in your role, and what do you think like the
Yeah.
importance of having that strong collaboration between enablement and the commercial team is?
hmm Well, I think collaboration in general is super important. I think one of the lessons that I had to learn in a painful crash and burn sort of way is I have a bias towards action, and so I'll just jump in and do something. And when I started out in my career, I think I had a little bit more ego involved in it. You know, I wanted to be recognized for my contributions. But what I realized is that if I'm not collaborating and constantly checking in with people to make sure I'm not ignoring, forgetting, or not taking into account another perspective, I'll miss the mark. And ultimately, the outcome is not high fidelity, right? Because you're not addressing what actually needs to be addressed. So I think the tight collaboration is super important just in general, specifically with the commercial team. What I've learned in 4 months is that they are a segment that's a little bit unique because of the transactional nature of the business and because of kind of how they go to market and the different motions that are involved with commercial. And so enablement can't be a one size fits all. So it needs to be a little bit more specialized. And I wouldn't know that if I didn't have a great relationship with the ASMs, many of the AEs, and of course, Ryan, who's been incredibly gracious. And I will say, it's a two-way street. I'm endlessly grateful for the way that I've been received at GitLab. It makes collaborating easy. And there's also an element of grace to that. You know, when you're collaborating and you miss the mark, oftentimes you're extended a little bit more grace and leeway because people know that you're actually really trying to get it right. And I think that also opens up space for feedback that might not necessarily be what you want to hear, but if you're putting yourself there, if you put yourself out there with collaboration, you've now established trust, right? So now we're back to psychological safety.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a common knowledge, right, that everyone's working toward that end goal, right? There's a shared mission there, which makes total sense.
Yeah, we're all aligned, and that's best for individuals, that's best for teams, and that's best for the company as a whole.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And you've mentioned a lot, a lot of great things, already about the team and about what you love about your job. And so if you had to, call out one thing, and maybe you already did say it, but what would you classify as kind of the best thing about your job?
Oh God, that's really hard. I think definitely the way that I've been received is hugely impactful and meaningful for me to be able to do good work in a job that I love for a company that I believe in is super powerful. And I really love everybody that I work with.
Yeah,
I know
no,
that's two things, but
hey, you're allowed as many as you want now. And I a company I used to work for Rackspace, and the one of the co-founders and chairman, Graham Weston at the time, it was on this big billboard in the office, and it said, his quote was like, "What we all want to be is a valuable team member on a winning team on an inspiring mission." And that's like always stuck with me in my career, because like that really is that's like the the best case scenario, right? Is like you're a valued team member and you're on a winning team and you're all inspired by the same mission. So I definitely feel that at GitLab as well.
Yeah, it's refreshing.
Definitely. And okay, so there's two sides to every coin, right? So you talked about the best things about your job. What's the most difficult thing about your job?
I love working remotely, but I miss being able to interface with people in person. I mean, I know that's kind of the nature of the times right now, but
Sure.
I do wish that I had a chance to, meet people in the kitchen and talk over tea. Or I do. That is hard for me.
I like that you're missing talking over tea. That's like so specific.
I guess it is.
Now we all know. We need to have tea chats with Kelley once we're able to meet in person again. That's awesome. And that makes total sense. I think that's something that a lot of people, I mean, we've talked about it before, but like a lot of people struggle to make that transition, which totally makes sense. And something tells me you're not an introvert by any means. So
not completely, no.
Not completely, yeah. No, so next question for you, and I'm excited about this one because I truly think you're like one of the most interesting people. So I was like, I wonder what she's gonna put. But what is an interesting fact about you that most people don't know?
Yeah, I had to think about this one because I have some pretty off the wall, I guess, facts. But so briefly, I'm adopted, and I found out when I was probably about 4 years old that I was adopted, which I thought was amazing. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever, but it also came with a little bit of confusion. So when I was about 10 years old, I was over playing at a friend's house and we were making shrinky dink like keychains or something. And I don't know why we did this, but we decided to add the city where we were born. And I was born in Leavenworth, Washington. Well, somebody got that confused with Leavenworth, Kansas, which is where a huge correctional facility is. So they were like, wait, so isn't that where a prison is? When I told them, and I was like, I don't know. They're like, yeah, no, it totally is. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm a prison baby. Which, like, so I mean, when you don't have anybody to fill in the gaps for you, you just fill them in yourself. And so that narrative stuck with me for a couple of years, and it was actually pretty funny.
You embrace prison baby.
I'm a prison baby. Like it explains so much. Like I get it. My life now makes sense. I get it.
All the stars aligned. Like prison baby. That's what I was missing.
Oh.
Were you disappointed when you found out that you indeed were not a prison baby? Did that take a piece of your identity away?
It kind of did. Like there were several pieces of my identity that went away when I actually finally met my both of my birth parents, which is very interesting. That's a whole other story. But I was like, wow, that's so mundane. Like I thought I had all these.
Yeah.
Like everyone else.
That's funny. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So what are you into right now? I know it's interesting times, right, with coronavirus and everything else, but what are your kind of hobbies right now that you're into?
I am super into fitness always. That's just kind of a thing that I do. I'm restarting my training schedule, so I'm super excited about that.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really happy. Hopefully I'll be able to compete again next year. And I am an avid podcast listener. I love true crime. My favorite murder is best podcast ever, but there's a number that I listen to.
We know, you and I both know there's been many a team meeting chat about true crime podcasts, but yes. So now everyone knows.
I'm a murderino, 100%.
You and me both. I find it so interesting. My husband has to cut me off. He's like, no more murder shows or podcasts for a little while. Like
it's so fascinating. It's like what within the human condition would create somebody who it's crazy.
Exactly. I'm right there with you. The psychology of it all is the most interesting part. So
super fascinating. Yeah.
Exactly. See, now people know now they know we can start a little club. Maybe we start a Slack channel. True crime
trust
junkies.
Me. Don't think I didn't think about that.
I'm not against it. Alrighty. So last question for you. We always try to end with a fun icebreaker. And so for you, I would love to know, what's the craziest thing on your bucket list?
So I would love to go take a tour of the Large Hadron Collider at CERN in France. I know that sounds really weird.
Very specific.
I know. I'm super interested and fascinated by quantum physics, and we could talk for hours about this, but here's the thing. We don't know what actually makes up matter. We don't know. So they're over there smashing protons and looking at the elements that decay to determine what even makes things solid. It's phenomenal. I don't understand but it's really cool. It's really cool to think about. So really cool. It would be amazing.
Kelley continues to be one of the most interesting people in the world. I'm telling you. I feel like you're the only person who would put the Hadron Collider as your bucket list item. I'm like, no, skydiving.
I did that.
I want to know the meaning behind matter.
I do. Like, it's fascinating.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Well, maybe you'll get over there one day. I have no doubt. So
I hope so. Yeah. I hope so.
That's awesome. Just write to him, be like, I was a prison baby and I made it here. Now this is my bucket list item.
Yeah, you have to let me in. Like, sponsor me.
Exactly.
Totally.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kelley. It was really fun chatting today. I know the team's going to have a great time getting to know you better. And so thanks for talking to me. And thank you again for all of the work you're putting in, not just enablement and the commercial team, but really, helping GitLab advance our DI&B efforts and really being a voice internally for that. So I know the whole team, not just myself, the whole team really appreciates that. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Super psyched
Awesome.
to be here. Really glad.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Kelley. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Bye.